All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this live post-game edition here on YouTube of Believe in Bills presented by FanDuel. I am Adam Benigni of WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. You see him there from Highmark Stadium. Second to last regular season game at Highmark Stadium, 13-12. An amazing score when you think about it. Bills coming up short against the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been playing the comeback card, Sal, for a number of weeks here, and today the Eagles trumped them. You can only play that game for so long, and the Bills did a lot to beat themselves and didn't execute when it mattered most. So I don't know where you want to start, but it certainly could be with the decision ultimately to go for two, which I think we agree on that. I would have done it, erred on the side of aggression there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with it. The way they were playing, Adam, I mean, taking that game to overtime, there certainly was no guarantee the Bills were going to be able to put another drive together and win the game. So I had no problem with McDermott doing it. Of course, it would have been nice if the goddamn kicker had made an extra point, right?
Yeah,
I mean, make the extra point. I know that Carter made a great play to break through and block it, but McDermott even made the point that, and he was right, it was a low kick. The kick never really had a chance, and that just can't happen on an extra point. So that set the whole thing in motion that put them in that position at the end. But as you said, I agree with it too. Go for the win right there. There was no guarantee in overtime that you were going to be able to, to win the game. You had the chance, take it. And what really sucked at them is that they dialed up a play that would have worked, should have worked. And we don't say this too often. The quarterback failed them. Plain and simple, the quarterback failed them. He failed them in numerous situations in this game, but obviously the most important one was that last throw. I don't know what – I mean, I watched the replay a few times now. I don't know what the problem was. His footwork was all messed up. He threw off his back foot. He wasn't getting pressure. It was just a weird play, and there was no excuse to throw the ball that he threw, and the Bills lose the game because of it.
Yeah, it was, of all the plays you see him make, and then to not make that one.
Yeah.
Right?
That was an easy
Shakir,
one.
Beautifully timed cut, executed perfectly on his end. He's breaking. He's 3, 4, 5 yards, probably 4 yards free of the defender at that point.
Yeah. It was, again, there were plenty of plays in this game where I didn't understand what Joe Brady was trying to accomplish. I mean, that he threw that before they did the hook and lateral play that kept that last drive alive. That screen, that little out, whatever that stupid quick screen is, I could not believe he called that play. And there were a few times in this game where I wanted to just scream at some of the play calls, but on that one, they dialed up the perfect play. And there was nobody else open. I watched the replay several times. He had nobody in the middle or to the right. It was Shakir all the way, and the Eagles busted the coverage. He was wide open, and Allen didn't get it there. It was just bizarre. That was the last thing I expected. I expected maybe the Eagles would get quick pressure and maybe force a bad throw, but I did not think Allen was going to miss a wide open guy when he wasn't even being pressured. It was crazy.
Well, I understand the alternative side of that argument, that the defense had really shut the Eagles down in the second half, right? I mean, if you go to overtime, you feel like that trend can continue, and the Bills are finally moving the football, and Allen gives you a chance. I just felt like they've benefited greatly from an aggressive mindset in situations sort of as the season has gone on, and I felt that was another one. I understand both sides of the argument, but I would have done what McDermott did.
I mean, you're right. The other argument was the defense had just put up 4 straight 3-and-outs. Maybe the Eagles were going to go nowhere with their one possession in overtime, and maybe the Bills could do something. They were starting to finally feel themselves on offense, scored touchdowns on their last 2 possessions. So, yeah, you could definitely make the case that had Badgley made the extra point, which wasn't exactly a given at that point, if he had made it and they'd gone to overtime, yeah, maybe that would have played out differently. Now, the other side of that, too, is that at some point, something was going to flip there, right? You figure the Eagles, the Eagles might have finally woken up on offense and gotten it done. We could go a million different ways here with this. Bottom line, I think he made the right call to go for it. And unfortunately, they blew it. The play call was good and the execution was bad. And they lose the game and they lose the division, which they weren't going to win anyways, Adam. I did not ever believe that the Patriots were going to lose to the Dolphins next week. So I did not think the Bills were winning the division. But it still would have been nice to go into that last week with a chance.
Well, Steve O'Shea, 1819 here in the comments. Allen isn't right. He missed that throw by a mile. And I'll follow up on Steve's point with this. And you could see it. And Brady made the point. Brady, I don't, you obviously in the press box there can't hear the national broadcast, right? But Brady, was obvious that Allen's foot was bothering him.
Well, it might have been. It didn't look like it was too bad, but what do I know? I'm not in his body. So Brady isn't either, by the way, but whatever. I mean, it didn't look like it was all that big of a problem for him today. He was still running. He scored 2 touchdowns on, where he had to have leverage with that foot. I don't think it was that big of a deal, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
All right. So, but independent of that play, you mentioned the extra point. That's an obvious one. And there are a couple of other glaring, obvious miscues that cost the Bills in this game. The turnover in the first half, which, by the way, I thought was a BS call. I kind of felt like, I get it. I'm not going to whine about it. I just felt like his arm was moving forward there.
I kind of thought the same thing when I watched the replay. And if you look out there, Hawes was actually out there. So you could have made the case that he was, he saw Hawes there and was throwing it. I kind of thought his arm was going forward, but this is the NFL, Adam. We don't know what anything is. We don't know what fumbles are. We don't know what catches are. We know nothing. So that was a bad one that went against the Bills. It sure didn't help that the ball got batted 33 yards in the other direction too. I mean, if it had just been a fumble right there, maybe the Bills could have survived it, but they lost 33 yards on the play. So that was a bad one for sure. That was the only touchdown the Eagles got. The short field at the 45, that's the only touchdown they got in the whole game.
How about the 19-yard loss from Allen?
Yeah.
Early in the fourth quarter that took them out of field goal range.
I don't think they were going to kick a field goal anyways, Adam. They were down 13-0. So I wasn't like totally bent out of shape about that, but it's a play you can't make. I mean, he did that last week too. That's the play he got hurt on, actually. He's got to stop doing that. But I understand where he's coming from, Adam. There's nobody open. Now they did get some plays downfield today. We could talk about that. So it was a little bit better today. But in that particular instance, it was like so many other instances all year. Nobody's open. He's trying to do something with nothing. They're down 13-0. So he does need to play a little hero ball, and it didn't work out. So I'm not going to kill him for that one. But yeah, they got to stop doing that. They got to find a way to get guys open quicker.
Well, that receiving core has been an issue all year long, and it's going to continue to be.
Nothing is changing. They had a few nice plays today. This is the group that it is, and it's not changing. It's not going to be much better than it was today. It's going to hold them back. Ultimately, it will kill them in the playoffs.
But, Brandon Cooks on the upside today, right?
Yeah.
You have to be encouraged by that, obviously.
That was nice. They finally got the ball. They threw the deep post early in the game for 50 yards. That was beautiful. His catch down at the end there on that last touchdown drive, that was a great catch. It was a great throw, but that guy, I forget who was in coverage. He was right on him, and Cooks went up and got it. So that was a very impressive play. That's what we were kind of hoping we'd get from Brandon Cooks when they signed him, 5 weeks ago. Finally stepped up and had a good game. So that was good to see. So, yeah, there was some positivity down the field. They got some balls to the boundary guys. Not enough. Gabe Davis and Josh Palmer combined for 1 catch. Those are supposed to be 2 of your, quote-unquote best guys. But at least Cooks, gave him something today. That was a positive.
As did Shavers.
Shavers made a nice play. That was a really nice play that he went up and got. Contested catch. If the Eagles had challenged it, that one might have gotten turned over. It looked like that ball came loose at the end, but Bills did a great job to run up to the line, and they got a playoff. Now, what sucked about that, in hindsight, I think they did that on purpose because they knew it might get turned over. And I think Allen just kind of threw one away. Well, that down ended up being costly because they didn't score there. If you remember, they went 4 and out when they got that 1st and goal after the catch, and they didn't get a touchdown. So that wasted down might have burned them, but it was still a good decision to get up there quick because that call might have gotten overturned.
Allen sacked 5 times in this game for 51 yards. And, we can have a pass rush conversation here, right? And illustrate the difference between the two. I mean, that the way that Eagles defense is built, right? And they're kind of rounding into form now as the postseason arrives. But the ability to get pressure with 4, right?
Yeah.
And this is, that is the template for a lot of teams. That was the template for the Giants back in the day when they knocked off the Patriots in the Super Bowl, right? That was certainly the template
for every
part
team.
Of it for the Eagles, obviously against the Chiefs last year. And I want to just tell a brief point from we had Bill Polian on, the Hall of Fame former GM of the Buffalo Bills. And he was on our Monday show on Channel 2 a number of years back, Sports Talk. It was right after Oliver signed his contract. Polian was on with Vic Carucci and myself. And there was some tension about Oliver getting the money without showing the consistency among the fan base, and we were addressing those concerns. And Polian said this, and this speaks to the point about pressure with 4 and being able to get pressure up the middle. He's like all the great quarterbacks, Jim Kelly, Marino, Elway, Brady. You can send, the exact quote was, you can send 2 heat-seeking missiles off of the edge, and it's not going to bother them. What is going to bother them is the pressure
up the middle, because they can't set their feet, and it disrupts them. And Brady made that reference a couple of times, and I recalled that remark. But that's how the Eagles are built, and I would say it illustrates a philosophical flaw in how the Bills defense is built. Would you agree with that? We've talked about this a number of times through the years, and I thought today's game was another illustration of that. Yeah, the Eagles have 2 of the best guys in football. That D-tackle combo of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter is as good as it gets. So I understand, they're built for that, and they took advantage of it today. The Bills have always tried to go with undersized guys at defensive tackle. They want quick pressure up front. But my point on that, and that's because of the point you're making. You want to be able to push the pocket up the middle. But when you got guys like Ed Oliver who are 290, Jalen Carter's 330. Jordan Davis is, I think, 340. You're going to get more push from those guys than you are from Larry Ogunjobi and Ed Oliver and all these other undersized. TJ Sanders, another undersized guy. Deion Walker fits the bill.
Sure.
When he finally he's still a rookie who makes a lot of mistakes, but he's shown some promise. Eventually, next year, hopefully, he'll become a real force as a 335-pound guy right in the middle that can do that. The Eagles have 2 of those guys, and that was a huge problem today. That was the biggest problem that Allen faced with that pass rush. Buffalo's offensive line is a strong group. They've been a strong group for 3 years, but this team really, really gave them trouble because of those 2 beasts up front. And then they have those fast edges. If you're going to push the pocket, now Allen's trying to get to the flanks, and they got those quick edges that are right there to keep them out. It was a tough assignment for them today. That's 40 sacks, by the way, this year. 40. And I looked at Pro Football Focus while I was writing, and more than half of those they've blamed on Allen. You can't blame them all on the offensive line. It's Allen holding the ball too long or scrambling around. So it isn't. People are going to say, 40 sacks, the offensive line sucks. No, that isn't the case. They've been really good this year. They struggled today, but they've been really good. Allen has been the biggest problem with these sacks because he's holding the ball too long.
Well, why is he
holding it? Why is that?
Because the receivers aren't getting open.
It all goes, people don't want to understand that, but it all goes hand in hand in football. One thing leads to leads to the next. And that's exactly what's happening with this Buffalo offense. It's why they've struggled. These things are all lining up, and they all have something to do with each other.
Let's talk about the defense and the fact that, they couldn't have done much more in that second half where they hold the Eagles to 17 yards of offense.
Defense was great today. Defense was I mean, like I said, the only touchdown they scored was on a short field after a turnover. They held them to 2 field goals after that. One of those, they had a nice red zone stop to force the field goal. I mean, against that team. Now that offense, you look at that offense this year, they've been a little bit weird. They've got really talented players, but they have not had a great year on offense. Imagine what Josh Allen could do with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I mean, it would just be dream. But Jalen Hurts is not getting enough, from those guys, let alone Saquon Barkley. The Eagles' offense has sputtered a lot of the year, but this Bills defense gave them all kinds of trouble. The Bills defense was part of those struggles today. 4 3-and-outs in the second half. They only had the 1 first down on their first possession. And as you said, I think it was 16 yards in the entire second half. That's insane. I mean, the Bills defense was really good today. It's a shame that wasn't good enough to get a win.
How encouraged are you by that with the postseason approaching? Because, there was so much concern. Barkley today winds up with 19 carries for 68 yards in the game. We talked about the way they were able to close the door in the second half. And I guess I'm kind of encouraged by what I see there. I mean, I'm concerned about a pass rush, but the trend is in the right direction, I guess my point is, given where that defense has been, the issues that it's had as the playoffs arrive now. And today's game against a championship caliber team, I thought was a really good illustration of that.
I agree. And Adam, I'll tell you, we've been on this Bills defense a lot this year, deservedly so. They've had some bad games. But when you look at all the problems that this defense has had with the injuries, it's pretty impressive that they've been able to come out here late in the season and put together some really strong games. And I thought today was their best performance of the year. I mean, I'm not even going to count the Jets. The Jets are so pathetic. That was a better game statistically for the Bills. Even the Pittsburgh game was a better game statistically than this one. But given the talent that Philadelphia has, I thought this was the Bills' best defensive game of the season by a long shot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, let's get a couple of comments here before we wrap it up and look ahead to next week, the final regular season game there at Highmark Stadium, where emotions will be running high, certainly. Let's go. We can't get to all of them. We have some good participation tonight here. Very encouraged to see that. Appreciate everyone for chiming in here. I'm just going to the various signs. Do you see, here's Gabriel Lamb here. Do you see a change? Sorry, my technical skills lack. Do you see a change in GM in the offseason? It feels like there's been bad moves that have been made. No, I don't see a change. But if we're, depending upon what this team does or doesn't do in the postseason, and we've made this point before, the point you just made about the defense and the performance of it, I mean, that speaks to Sean McDermott as well. Given the injuries, I mean, there's a lot in terms of coaching and, and to Sean's credit, he has a hand in those results, certainly. I would say that if there's heat under anyone's seat, it's hotter under Brandon Beane's than Sean McDermott's. He's not going anywhere. I'm not saying there's going to be a change. Yeah. I'm just saying when it comes to those end of season news conferences, I feel like Beane's going to have some questions to answer if they fall short in the postseason.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Beane will have to answer for the roster he put together, and especially at wide receiver. So it's going to be very interesting next offseason to see what he does here.
All right, I'm just looking for another comment or two. Bob R1, excuse me. Hard to say what Josh is. Off script for the most part. Last year he was smart. This year he's sugar high again and unsure at the same time. I think he's a very refined quarterback. I think that given the supporting cast that's around him and the lack of the timing of the offense, when you can't go through your progression and find an open guy, everything's thrown off from a timing perspective, and his natural inclination is to use his athleticism to try and do more, which he's done.
It's part of what makes him great, Adam, right? Is his ability to improv and make something out of nothing. Unfortunately, this year, because he doesn't have the supporting cast, it doesn't look like it has in past years. He's trying all he can do. I can't blame him for that, but he's just playing with a short deck this season. There's no question about it.
All right, one more from Gabriel Lamb here. Clearly, Coleman is done. Let's talk about that. Keon Coleman.
We have to. He's a non-factor. Yeah. I mean, if he can't dress for this team with this wide receiver core, what's the point of even bothering with Keon Coleman? I mean, they'll probably have him back unless they can find some way to unload him in a trade for garbage. He'll be on the team probably next year because he won't cost much money. But I think his future is done here in Buffalo. I mean, what are they going to do with him? He can't play. He just
that was a pick that Bean couldn't afford to fan on.
Yeah, and he did. So he's got to rectify it next year. That's all there is to it.
All right, final question here before we wrap it up. I know you still have work to do there for your coverage in the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, and we're over the 20-minute mark here. What are your emotions going to be like next weekend there in that stadium?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about it during the week here, but it'll be, it's the last game. They're not going to have a playoff game here. I can almost guarantee that now. So as I've told you many times, Adam, I was here for the first game. I'm going to be here for the last game, and there were about 450 in between. So, yeah, I'm going to miss the old place. I mean, we could talk about it next week, but, yeah, I'm going to miss the place for sure.
Well, I mean, a couple of, dare I call us old timers? I suppose we are by today's standards. But I mean, I think I kind of have a natural appreciation for historic stadiums, regardless of the sport. And then when you have the one that, is in the market where you've spent your career covering and you kind of see what's going up across the street, which is exciting and everything. It's a very special place. And I've seen reaction from around the National Football League this year. Philadelphia media actually describing that stadium in very favorable ways and understanding the history that's taken place. And I know you've written a great deal about it. There'll be a lot of coverage during the course of the week, which we'll have here on Believe in Bills. We'll talk about our memories and what that place means to this community and to football in general. So we'll look forward to that. And any final point you want to make here? We talked about the division going by the wayside, obviously. Any final point you want to make before we wrap it up? So,
yeah, I mean, look, it's felt like this was going to be the outcome for about 3 months now, that the Patriots were going to win this division. Their schedule was just historically easy, and to their credit, they took advantage of it. The Bills lost a couple games that really turned the tide in this division, and it comes back to bite. It wasn't even today. It was losing to the Patriots that first time, and that Miami game is going to be one that's going to haunt the Bills. You can't lose to the Dolphins in division. So that was the one really that killed them. So it's kind of the way I thought it was going to be. They're a wild card team. It'd be nice if they could somehow get to 5 because it does keep alive the chance. And in this playoff this year, there's a lot of parity in the AFC. So you could see upsets of lower seeds to higher seeds. So if they got the 5, they'd have really 2 cracks at it, right? The 6 and 7 teams could possibly, open the door, but, losing today hurts that. It hurts it a lot. There's a lot of things that have to happen next week for the Bills to get the 5 seed. So I think we're going to be closing the doors here, after the Jets game, unfortunately. And that's going to be a tough road for the Bills then to get to the Super Bowl. All
right. Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Speaking of the Super Bowl, FanDuel, presenting sponsor for this show and others on the Believe Network. Bills down to 6th in the Super Bowl betting odds at plus 1,000 in the wake of today's loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. 13-12 at Highmark Stadium. So for Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, I'm Adam Benigni of WGRZ-TV, Sports Talk Live, Buffalo. Thanks so much for being with us here in this special post-game edition of Believe in Bills, and we will see you Tuesday and Thursday this week as we look toward the final regular season game at historic Highmark Stadium. Thanks for being with us.